My name is Narong. I'm 81 years old, and I need to tell you something I wish I had understood when I was young. I spent most of my life looking for peace in the wrong places. I looked for it in discipline. I looked for it in routine. I looked for it in wisdom, in prayer, in quiet places, in the approval of others, and even in the idea that one day I would finally become someone worthy of feeling calm. But none of that gave it to me. What changed my life was not finding something new. It was realizing that what I was searching for had never left me. That may sound simple, maybe too simple, but it took me decades to understand. And if you stay with me, I think you will understand why so many people suffer while standing right on top of the peace they want so badly to feel. I was born in a small village in northern Thailand. My family was poor, and like many boys in my village, I grew up learning very early that life does not stop to ask how you feel. There was always work. There was always noise. There was always another problem waiting at the door. My father was not a cruel man, but he was not soft either. He believed that a strong heart was built through hardship, not comfort. My mother carried sadness in silence and rarely spoke about what she needed. So I learned to do the same. I learned to keep moving. I learned to be useful. I learned not to sit too long with my own thoughts. At the time, I believed that was maturity. Honestly, it was just fear wearing the clothes of discipline. When I entered the temple at 12, I thought I had stepped into the answer. I believed peace must live in a place like that. The quiet halls, the early mornings, the sound of chanting, the order of daily life, all of it gave me the impression that I had finally arrived somewhere sacred, somewhere different from the pain and confusion of ordinary life. You see, this is what most people don't realize. We often believe peace is attached to a place, a person, or a set of conditions. We tell ourselves that if we can just get there, just fix that, just become this, then everything inside us will settle down. That is exactly what I believed. And for many years I was certain I was getting closer. I threw myself into the life of a monk with complete seriousness. I woke before everyone else. I followed every rule. I practiced harder than most of the younger monks around me. I thought that if I became more disciplined, peace would come. When it did not come, I thought maybe I simply needed more knowledge. So I studied more. I memorized teachings. I listened carefully to older monks. I repeated the words of the Buddha until they sat easily on my tongue. But there was a problem. The words were in me, but the peace was not. I could speak about calm and detachment, yet inside I was still restless. I could guide others with patience, yet I did not know how to sit quietly with my own emptiness. That was the part I kept hidden. On the outside, I looked like a man on the path. On the inside, I felt like a man chasing something that always stayed one step ahead. And here's what I didn't understand then. The more I chased peace, the further away it seemed to move. That was hard for me to accept because I had built my whole life on effort. I believed that everything valuable had to be earned through struggle. So when peace did not come, I did what I had always done. I tried harder. I meditated longer. I isolated myself more. I believed that maybe peace was reserved for those willing to suffer enough for it. What most people don't realize is that a person can become deeply devoted to the search and still be moving in the wrong direction. There was a period in my life when I became almost obsessed with the idea of spiritual progress. I measured myself constantly. I compared my mind to the minds of others. I judged my thoughts. I judged my emotions. If I felt anger, I thought I had failed. If I felt sadness, I thought I had more work to do. If my mind wandered during meditation, I treated it like a personal weakness. Let me explain why that matters. When you turn inner life into a competition, even with yourself, you do not find peace. You find pressure. You find disappointment. You find shame. And that shame is quiet. It hides behind good behavior and polite words, but it is there. I carried it for years. I remember a season in my late 50s when I felt more tired than I had ever felt in my life. Not just physically, in my spirit. I had been a monk for decades and people respected me. Younger monks listened when I spoke. Visitors came to me for guidance. They believed I had found something solid inside myself. But many nights I lay awake wondering why I still felt like I was missing the thing I had given my whole life to find. I was ashamed of that question. I thought I should be beyond it by then. I thought I should already know. And because I was ashamed, I did not speak of it. Then something happened that changed me, but not in the way people like to imagine change. It was not dramatic. It was not mystical. I was not struck by a sudden vision. I was simply tired. That is the truth. One afternoon, after years of searching with force, I sat down in the courtyard of the temple with nothing left in me to chase. I was not trying to meditate well. I was not trying to observe my mind. I was not trying to become anything. I was simply sitting because I had no energy left for the effort of becoming. And in that very ordinary moment, something became clear. Here's the truth. Peace had never been absent. My struggle had been covering it. My searching had been drowning it out. My effort, which I had trusted for so many years, had become the wall between me and the thing I wanted most. That realization did not arrive as a loud thought. It arrived as a soft recognition, a quiet seeing. I noticed that underneath all my striving, underneath the need to improve, underneath the endless habit of measuring myself, there was already a still place within me. It had not been created by my practice. It had not been rewarded to me because I had worked hard. It had always been there. You know what surprised me most? I felt grief before I felt relief. I grieved the years I had spent running in circles. I grieved the pressure I had put on myself. I grieved the way I had mistaken effort for wisdom. I had believed peace was hidden behind difficulty, when in fact it had been buried under the noise of my own reaching. That is a painful thing to see when you are old, but it is also freeing, because once I saw it, I could not unsee it. From that day on, I stopped treating peace like a prize. I stopped trying to force my mind into some perfect shape. I stopped believing that every uncomfortable emotion was a sign that I was failing. Instead, I began to understand something much simpler and much truer. Peace is not the absence of thought. It is not the absence of pain. It is not a perfect emotional state. Peace is what becomes visible when you stop fighting every moment of your own experience. Peace is what remains when you stop arguing with life. That does not mean I became free from all struggle. I did not. I still felt sadness. I still felt disappointment. I still had difficult days. But those things no longer convinced me that peace had disappeared. I learned that peace can exist quietly underneath all of them. Think about the surface of a pond. When the wind blows, the water moves. The reflection becomes broken. You may think the pond has lost its clarity, but the bottom is still there. The water is still water. It has not become something else. Our minds are like that. We think that agitation means we have lost ourselves. We think anxiety means peace has gone. But often peace has not gone anywhere. We simply cannot see it because we are staring only at the surface. What most people don't realize is that trying to force the surface to become perfectly still often creates even more movement. This changed the way I understood meditation, prayer, and daily life. I used to think these practices were tools to achieve peace. Now I see them differently. They are ways of noticing what is already here. They do not create your deepest calm. They uncover it. They help you stop adding noise. They help you stop chasing and grasping and resisting. They help you return. And returning is very different from achieving. Achieving has tension in it. Returning has humility. The same thing happened in my relationships with other people. I used to think difficult people were obstacles to my inner peace. If someone spoke harshly, I felt disturbed. If someone acted selfishly, I carried frustration for hours. But once I understood that peace is not outside, I stopped giving other people so much power over my inner state. Let me explain. I am not saying I stopped caring. I am saying I stopped making my peace depend on their behavior. That is a very different thing. When you believe peace is external, everyone becomes a threat to it. But when you understand peace is internal, you still feel pain, but you are not ruled by it. I also began to see how much suffering comes from the belief that life must match our preferences in order for us to be okay. We want certain people to stay. We want our bodies to stay strong. We want our plans to work. We want our efforts to be recognized. We want certainty. We want control. And when life refuses to obey, we panic. We feel robbed. We feel unstable. I know this because I lived that way for a very long time. But peace begins to grow when we stop demanding that life be different before we allow ourselves to breathe. Peace grows when we stop postponing our own calm. Now at 83, I can say something I could not say when I was younger. The peace you are searching for is not in the next achievement. It is not in becoming more impressive. It is not in fixing every flaw. It is not in waiting for the world to become easier. It is not even in becoming a perfect spiritual person. It is in your willingness to stop turning away from your own present moment. It is in your willingness to stop making war with what you feel. It is in your willingness to sit down, breathe, and see clearly. And if this touches something inside you, then let it touch you fully. Let it be the moment you stop believing that your life will finally begin after you solve yourself. Let it be the moment you stop treating your worth like a future project. You do not need to become someone else to deserve peace. You do not need to earn the right to feel at home within yourself. If you remember nothing else from what I say today, remember that. There are still mornings when I wake up and my body hurts. There are still days when old memories return. There are still moments when the mind wants to race ahead and fix, improve, control. But now I know how to meet those moments. I do not chase peace anymore. I return to it. I notice my breath. I notice the floor under my feet. I notice the way my mind wants to leave the present and create a problem out of what is simply here. And then I come back. Again and again, not as punishment, not as work, as kindness. That is why I share this now. Not because I think I have mastered life, not because I want to sound wise. I share it because I lost too many years believing peace was somewhere else. And I know there are people listening right now who are doing the same. They are searching outside themselves, in success, in relationships, in approval, in constant self-improvement, in distraction, in noise, and they are tired. I know that tiredness. I carried it for most of my life. If my words gave you even a small moment of clarity, hold on to that. Better yet, live from it. Come back to this understanding tomorrow and the next day. Let it become part of how you walk, how you speak, how you listen, how you meet your own thoughts. If this message matters to you, stay close to this space. Return here. Share in the comments what you have been searching for outside yourself. Sometimes naming the search is the beginning of ending it. And if you want to keep walking this path with me, then stay. There is more to uncover, but not out there. In here, where it has always been.